go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Stateside Weekly Update with Bryant Naylor and Tim Robinson. I'm Tim Robinson. That is Bryant Naylor. Bryant, your lights look good, man. How are you?
Thanks, Tim. They do look good, don't they?
They
They
do.
look really
I'm
good on the
jealous.
screen. They're looking really good on the computer screen in front of me. So I don't.
I gotta, I gotta up my light game. We talk about this way too much for me to not up my light game. No one cares about our lights. Bryant, let's talk about real estate and mortgage rates. So, lots of stuff happening this week. There's debt ceiling talk. Inflation is, I don't want to say under control, but getting back to where the Fed wants it to be. Came in at 4.9% year over year last week, which is an excellent trend. Some people are talking about a pause in the federal rate hikes, which could help out the mortgage rates. But again, I mean, it's a lot of kind of speculation and data tracking that may or may not come to fruition. But I think that what we're seeing in the market is similar to 2019. Like everything is trending normally, normal market, except for what we always talk about. There's a lack of inventory, and there's many reasons for that. But I think we should get into some of them. I think the main one, and I want you to kind of expound on this, but the main one is what they're calling the Great Rate Lockdown. If you bought in the past few years at 2.5, 3%, it is not very incentivizing for you to give up that 30-year fixed mortgage or whatever you have, whether it be 15-year, an ARM, whatever. Give up that locked in rate for something that's going to be 6.7 to 7.2% right now. It just doesn't make financial sense unless you have to move for a job or something. I mean, our clients moving PCS and back to the States. There's kind of things where you have to do that. But if you don't have to do that, it doesn't make sense. And I actually listened to a podcast the other day where that could very well become a new asset class. This fixed rate mortgage at 2.5%, like people could be trying to buy that through seller financing, through whatever creative means they can, because that is a valuable thing right now
The
with,
newest thing.
inflation at 5%, 6%, 7%. If you can get a 30-year fixed debt on anything, like people are going to buy that debt. It's a good debt to buy. Anyways, that is another topic. But how do you think that's playing out in the market? I mean, it's obvious. There's not enough houses for people that want them because no one wants to move.
Yep, and that's it. We've all seen surveys on what sellers need to see to be able to feel comfortable selling their house and taking another loan. And it hovers around about 5% interest rates, and we're well above those right now. We're hoping there's a lot of people say that interest rates are going to come down by the end of the year.
Some people are
Right.
saying in the summer, and that's where we get hard. Is like no one knows. I mean, we're all just kind of speculating, and people
No
look
one
at different
knows. Yeah, we're
metrics.
we're just listening. I'm just we have our experts we listen to. These economists that are way smarter than us. They got PhDs in this stuff.
Smarter than
And
you anyway.
you
I don't know
listen to
about
them. It's
me, but
funny. You listen to them, and like one person says one thing, and they give you all this data and facts and how they came up with that, and then you listen to someone say something completely opposite, and they give all their data and facts. And you're like, well, yeah, what do I do? Yeah. So, but overall, the consensus is rates are coming down, inflation is coming down, rates are going to come down, and it's just a matter of time. Just like nobody knows how low they're going to get. A
right.
lot of people are saying they're going to maybe settle in the mid fives or low fives. Who knows?
Who
It's hard to
knows?
say. What we do know is that, like you said, the no one's selling because of the great rate lockdown. That's a true, it's just a fact that is taking over the US right now. Nobody wants to get rid of those low rates. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think I've said it on the podcast before. My least favorite phrase in the English language is "it is what it is," but like, it is what it is. It's one of those things where if you have to move, if you want to move for whatever reason, you just have to be creative with it. We've talked about, looking at ugly houses, looking at things that aren't the shiniest thing on the block, things that have been sitting for a little while where we have some more negotiating power. Looking for seller financing. I mean, that's a real thing. Some people that want to move but are hesitant to give up that rate can potentially seller finance a property if they want to just be paid as a mortgagor on that property. That is a very real thing. So looking at being creative, looking at solving problems. I mean, that's kind of what we do as realtors is, what is there a problem here? Sellers right now don't have many problems because they kind of have They have all the
Oh,
power, right?
yeah.
So, but if they have something, if it's an urgency issue, if they need to close fast, if they don't necessarily want to sell, but they have to move for whatever reason, let's give them an option not to sell. Like you can continue to get payments on this and keep the house, and we'll set you seller finance the house for us. That is not the case in everything, but like it's worth asking, and we're happy to ask. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I think that the Great Rate Lockdown, like it gets a lot of publicity, but it is, like you said, it is a real thing. It's just, it doesn't make intuitive sense to give up something. And we're not talking insignificant numbers. If you're locked into two and a half
Yeah.
percent and you go to 7, you get a smaller house for more money. Like
Exactly.
it
Yeah, you're
is,
going from a 5,000 square foot. I mean, maybe not around here, but you're going from a 5,000 square foot house at a $3,000 a month interest rate to a $3,000 or 3,000 square foot house in a $5,000 interest rate. And
right,
like people aren't going to give that up.
right. It doesn't make sense.
I
It doesn't
wouldn't.
make sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know what the solution is. Like the solution is more houses, but more houses are the problem because no one's going to
Time to
sell
build.
right now. So, it's one of those things where like I feel like we do too much doom and gloom. We're not trying to do doom and gloom. We're just trying to state the facts and show
Yeah,
that,
they're just
there's a lot of
facts.
things that need to happen. And we don't make the decisions. The Fed kind of makes the decisions, and that's not everything, but it's a lot of it. And I think what you mentioned, there is, and I've seen data on this, and I've seen different data on this as you always do, but like you said, people will have 5 set in their head, not necessarily 5.0 interest rate, but in the fives, that starts to feel doable. That starts to feel like the historical average, even though the historical average is around 7. People forget that. So it's right where we're at right now, basically the interest rates. But there's like a mental block there, like I want to get as close to 6 as possible, or once it's in the fives, then I'll start making moves, and that makes sense to some extent. But I think we as buyers and sellers need to be flexible right now and just kind of not have these fixed numbers in our head, because you can wait forever for it. Like who knows? What if the debt ceiling, like we have to renegotiate that, or that comes to
Right.
fruition? Like that's not going to help. Like it's so if you're waiting and something else happens, COVID happens again. Like it's one of those things where like if you want to make it work, you need to try to figure out how to make it work when it makes sense. And it's not all rate dependent. Rates are a big deal for sure. I'm not like downplaying those, but like we need to think about all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, there's more than just rates, right? It's just the housing price. It's competing for a house and being comfortable with waiving all the contingencies just to be competitive too, and or having a large down payment or earnest money deposit. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different factors that go into it, but everybody concentrates on the rate, because that's people get set on that. But
Yeah.
the rates aren't forever. Like my wife and I, we bought a house. Our rate's good now comparatively to, it's not 3%, but it's 5.5% or so. And at the time
Killer right
couldn't
now.
believe it. It hurt to sign up for something that large. And then they got up to 7s, and then it's like, oh no, it's not sitting so bad. But our plan
Yeah.
is to get into a house, make those payments until rates come down, and we can refinance, buy down the rate as low as possible, and lock it in for 30 years.
And
And
that
that's our plan. And that got us into a house.
I mean that should still be the plan, Brian. I'm glad you brought that up. Is like I sent out our investor email this morning, and some of the verbiage I put in there is like you, it can be a win-win situation if you think about it on a long enough scale. Either you buy now at 7% and the rate goes up to 9 because something crazy happens, you win. Or you buy at 7%, you wait 3 to 5 years until it comes back down to 5.5, 5, 6.5. You refinance, pull out some money, buy another property, you win. Like rates aren't going to get better overnight, and if you're waiting for them, then this is more as an investment. But like there are numbers to be played there. Yeah, so just got to think of your long-term goals and what you want to do,
Yeah.
and don't let the race ruin your life.
No, like I said, those are just temporary.
Just temporary.
Like
I think that's good.
it might disqualify you from a house that you want. You might not be able to qualify for it because of higher rates. So, but at the end of the day, get into something, start building equity, putting that money in your own pocket instead of
Yeah,
landlord's pocket, and get out of it and get something that you want when you
that's it.
when rates are down.
I
It's that
love it.
simple, Tim. It's
It's
that
that
simple.
simple, right?
I mean,
It's so easy. Just think differently, folks. You got to think differently. Strategize a little bit. Don't be frustrated. And we'll look at things a little different. So, if you want to look at things a little different, give us a
how we
call.
doing on time?
Well, we're done.
We're
We're
done.
done. We're trying to keep
All
it
right.
at 8 minutes for the algorithm and for the folks so they don't fall asleep with us talking about lights. Even though I'm going to talk about lights every episode now, it's kind of our thing.
We have precedent.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody, to another episode of Stateside Weekly Market Update with Bryant Naylor and Tim Robinson. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we will be back next week with more light talk and a little bit of real estate.
And a little bit of real estate. All right. See you next week.
All right.